Hello and welcome, I'm Raziel, and today, well, because it's Halloween season, let's talk about scary factions. Now, fear, of course, is one of the most subjective things that you can think of. It's terrifying, everyone has different fears and phobias. And so when it comes to talking about scary factions, it's quite a subjective thing. It's something that's kind of weird. Now, a lot of people will go straight to the big monsters or the scary monsters or stuff like that. Now, to me, when it comes to fear in lore or any form of narrative game or even storytelling, I think fear comes from something far deeper. A big scary monster is going to scare you there and then, whereas something that is slowly creeping or hidden, to me, is far more terrifying. This is why I really like Silence of the Lambs and American Psycho. The scariest parts of that aren't Buffalo Bill, but it's the thinking behind Hannibal Lecter and, of course, Patrick Bateman. And if you watch it, I would say, renew it at least, that Henry is far more terrifying than Pennywise, because he has that more evil inside. Like, he's a human being, and you can see him getting worse and worse throughout the film. So, when it comes to wargaming and being a scary faction, I think we can't just talk about the big monsters, because let's take 40k for example. Now, 40k is obviously grimdark, and this is my first example. To me, the most scariest faction is the Dark Elder. The reason being is the old adage which they use, pray they don't take you alive. Because what they'll do to you is absolutely horrific, it's barbaric, it's nasty, and the worst part is they don't care that it is, horrid. They're causing you pain for their own gratification. They're inflicting this nastiness on you because they enjoy it, and no other reason. See, that's kind of terrifying for me, because with Nids, for Necrons is global dominion, is what they're after. So they're going to kill everyone, you're going to die. It might be a horrific way of dying, but you're going to die, or you're going to be eaten with the Nids. That's it. With the Dark Elder, they're not in it for galactic dominion. They're not in it for food. They're in it just to cause people pain and anguish, including extending people's lives until, far beyond their natural length, just so they can continue causing pain for enjoyment. Now, you could argue Slaanesh, but Slaanesh is kind of different, because what they do to the tormented souls, for the most part, there is a very small minority, which are, taken souls, is that the souls want that to happen to them. That's why they worship Slaanesh. But with the Drukhari, there's no choice here. You're not choosing to be tortured for pleasure. You're just forced that way, or you're forced to become something horrific or terrifying, or just something to cause even more fear in the opposing army when they realise that they're fighting their old foe, their old friends again, but this time distorted and mutated. They're good at psychological warfare. The next one is bolt action. Now, bolt action is a very easy choice. Really, it's the Germans, because we know what the Germans did. The Germans are a scary faction because we know the history behind Germany during World War II. We know about the Holocaust. We know about what Joseph Mengele did with the disabled children. We know all of this horrible, nasty stuff. The genocides, the eradication of all people, the absolute oppression of their own people that, no one could escape. So, if you want to go bolt action for a scary force, Germans are the obvious choice there. Next is Conquest. Now, Conquest is a pretty dark and grim setting on its own, and that's fine. Most of the factions have, well, except the 100 Kingdoms, the Sorcerer Kings maybe, City-States, they're pretty much good guys. You could argue the Old Dominion are quite scary, but they're just the regular undead. The one that I would say is the scariest is the Spires. Now, the Spires are absolutely terrifying, because they are an alien race upon Ear, and what they do is, when they take land, whether surrendered willingly or not, it doesn't matter, they will kill every person from that. They'll wipe out the entire race. But not just wipe them out, they will then use them as clones. They will take the race they just massacred and absolutely, just destroyed, and then make clones of them. That's one part which is particularly terrifying, that, these are now clones of the people they just murdered. Without their memories, without anything. They're just there as meat shields and peons and nothing else. But it gets worse. See, when a clone gets old or too injured to continue to work or fight, they will then melt them down into biomass for the new clones to eat. Okay, that's disgusting on its own, but when you realise a lot of these new clones were in fact clones of the clones, they just turned into biomass. They are feeding the clones and pretty much their old selves. That to me is a level of terrifying which very few games or stories actually manage to come across. You're basically eating yourself, and when you die or get too old, you're going to eat yourself again. This idea whether or not a clone is the same person as before is the thing that is most terrifying. It gets that deep psychological part of it right. Now, it does not get better. Now, they have a lot of scientists, such as pheromancers, who then will, literally experiment on the clones and the other races just to make them better. Absolutely not caring whether or not the creature is alive, anaesthetized, or anything. They will just continue experimenting and even melding some together to make a bigger monster. So the spies, to me, is far more terrifying because of the psychological aspect of what they do to their enemies. Now, let's finish off with Wild West Exodus. Now, Wild West Exodus, if you're a big fan of Wild West Exodus, you might think the Hex is the obvious choices. Now, the Hex is scary. It has a lot of scary monsters in it. And so, while I was looking at this, I realised the Hex isn't as terrifying as it means. It's like it's just this horrible monsters that you get for the Hex, but they're not the worst. I've got to say, it's the Enlightened. Couple of things first. First, the Enlightened do horrific things to other humans. They will experiment on them. They will add limbs. They do not care. They'll do anything that they believe is in advancing the human race, and they will sell it. They will cause pain for profit. Where doing it for pleasure may seem really bad, where doing it for profit and actually, gaining substance from someone else's pain is far worse. Now, that's just like the tip of the iceberg for the Enlightened, where they cause pain and all the experimentations on people to, get more money. You find that some of them actually enjoy doing it at the same time. They actually like causing this pain, and the money is just an added bonus to them. And that's the thing. See, the Hex may seem bad because it's got scary monsters. However, the Hex is actually running away from the Order. This is a survival instinct for them to possess people, or to possess people, so it has an army to fight the Order with. That's absolutely natural to that. That's a natural instinct, and you can't really consider that an evil act. Whereas turning people into zombies, or part mechanical, constantly experimenting on human beings just for profit and sometimes pleasure, that's where I would consider the Enlightened to be far more scarier than the Hex. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you all have a lovely day. And tomorrow's video is the top scariest models. And I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much for watching. If you wish to save money on your wargaming, don't forget to click the link down below for Wayland Games for up to 20% off your wargaming and free delivery after £20. There is also Forbidden Planet for comics, DVDs, mangas, my merchandise and my comics. And there's Skyforge, never forget Skyforge. And finally, Patreon, because business. Bye bye.